Trust that you had a good experience in week one and you're beginning to think about what is a clinical scenario? How do I determine what my issue is that I need to face and where the evidence is, and how do I formulate a scenario for a randomized clinical trial? Feels like trying to bite the apple all at once. So you'll really like this particular lecture. Rather than read you each slide, I want you to take time to study these slides carefully, and at the end, I'm going to summarize. So this is not going to be narrated on each slide, but rather I want you to take the time to dig deep and understand the information on each slide. It will guide you through the mental process that we go through to develop a focused clinical question that then guides us to develop a randomized controlled trial scenario. So thank you for participating in this week's module. This pyramid is a reflection of levels of evidence. When we try to find out an answer to a clinical question, we want to find the highest levels of evidence. We don't want to start from scratch. We want to find out what's published. So we do a literature search. Now, when we talk about levels of evidence, the highest is systematic reviews, which is many randomized controlled trials to increase the number of people that we're looking for. But many times when you search in literature, you don't find systematic reviews. It's because a lot of things happen that are new, and these novel experiences in healthcare, like the COVID crisis a few years ago, you couldn't find research that told you what to do that would help you. Professions, when they have enough systematic reviews, they can actually go one step higher than this level of evidence pyramid, and that's called clinical practice guidelines. Understand that there are many things that are evidence. If somebody comes in and sees me as a patient, and it's very unusual, I can't really relate that to any other patient I've ever seen. That's called anecdotal evidence, and I can report that. These are done with case reports. Sometimes you'll notice that new ideas come through editorial comments or letters to editors in professional journals. So these are low levels of evidence, but it's how things start. These are the things that get us to thinking, oh, maybe we need to look a little bigger. And so we can do case control studies. We can do cohort studies where we take a group of people that are similar. But the gold standard is to do a randomized controlled trial. And you have to have a large number, called an N number, of people in order to reach a conclusion. So this slide actually foreshadows for you what you're going to be looking for in your literature search. When you can't find at the highest level, you go first for systematic reviews, then you go for lower levels. And what you may find is 10 different randomized controlled trials that don't agree. So you'll notice in this PowerPoint, it talks about what do I do when that happens. Keep reading, and I thank you and I want to encourage you to really dig deep during this PowerPoint presentation. We call this an EBD flashcard. It was developed at the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston at the School of Dentistry. And I encourage you to use this to try to find highest levels of evidence, how to search for evidence, and how not to just get confused by everything you find on the internet. When we talk about highest levels of evidence, we talk about systematic reviews or SRs. And what are these? These are many, many randomized controlled trials. The more the better. And then they're funneled into a review of where those randomized controlled trials differ, where they're similar, and can we come to conclusions. So you have to select them, you have to assess them, and then you have to synthesize them. Sometimes in your search for the highest level of evidence, you find things called meta-analysis, and many students don't quite understand, but they are at the same level as a systematic review. Systematic reviews summarize all the available evidence that somebody can find, and it's unbiased. A meta-analysis actually is a statistical strategy which says we're going to calculate the statistics from many, many, many clinical trials. So you look at randomized controlled trials and you look at their statistical strategy, and many times you can match them up. The next few slides will walk you through the PICO process with a scenario. And this is where you start when you're beginning to think about clinical situations and patients to kind of lead you down the road that it eventually will result in a randomized controlled trial. So take time to study the slides. They're not narrated, and then we'll be applying them. What you're going to find if you follow that EBD flashcard is that TRIP database is listed as a really good resource. Another one is Cochrane. And so most students go to PubMed. The problem with PubMed is it's filled with things that haven't been vetted and reviewed. So when you go to Cochrane, you're going to find that those are systematic reviews largely. TRIP beta days, TRIP actually will help you with your PICO search. So the one benefit of PubMed, by the way, is just to kind of in general put in a topic, and it helps you find your search terms. We call these mesh terms. And so coming up with keywords that are going to lead you to the kind of studies you're looking for. You're certainly not going to take the first few things you find, or you might, but you need to look long and hard before you really settle on what are those studies that I've actually looked at that kind of help me to know and inform how I would do a randomized controlled trial. Thank you for participating in this review of randomized controlled trials in our search for the highest levels of evidence. You will be using this in your assignments throughout this course, and I'd encourage you to drop me an email if you have questions. Thank you. My email is dfrey@hc.edu.